Okay, I'm going to talk about this influencer phenomenon that is occurring on social media. And the phenomenon I'm referring to is the influencer movement, right? There's lots of people who are choosing to be influencers. And there's lots of different kinds of influencers, right? So you could have an influencer who is just trying to advertise to their followers. So they will do anything to accrue as many followers as possible, and then they will advertise in order to maximize that ad revenue that is being paid to them by corporations, right? On the other hand, you also have influencers who don't advertise so much, and instead they are funded by their followers directly, right? So they create, maybe they create entertainment, maybe they write music, maybe they make YouTube videos, or maybe they are uh, media hosts, right? Maybe they cover recent events in the same way that mainstream media does, but they give it a little different spin, right? They give a different viewpoint. What that different viewpoint represents is influence, right? So, for example, once upon a time in the United States, people were led to believe that slavery was okay. Not so much anymore, right? So, if we compare slavery, the American public's view on slavery in 1700 versus today, the pattern we can recognize is that, well, it's a hell of a lot more frowned upon today than it was in 1700. The reason that is because of influence. Somebody or some group of people influenced society to believe that slavery was bad between then and now. This is what influencers do. Influencers can be mainstream media, they can be the education system, they can be your parents, they can be the influencers on social media, right? Influencers are anyone who tries to give you a different viewpoint. Again, I'm an influencer. Now, I'm certainly not as successful as some of these other influencers, but the point is that influencers try to change the beliefs, they try to change the way that people think about things. And if we look at this influencer movement and we only look at it through a lens of, well, criticism, and we only look at the worst of the influencers, then what's going to happen is we're going to miss the bigger picture. We're going to forget to ask why it is that the influencer phenomenon is occurring in the first place. Why is it that people are choosing to be influencers rather than going into a traditional career path that is perhaps more stable? That's an important question to ask because it seems illogical, right? It might seem like it doesn't make sense to become an influencer, to risk that career path as opposed to investing your time in some other more beneficial skill, or more a skill that is actually proven, right? Like becoming an engineer, for example. So, why is that? Well, I think it's because the old influencers have failed us. I think it's because the old education system, the K through 12, for example, and the legacy media, the mainstream media, has led us astray. And in effect, this influencer phenomenon is a way to correct those old ways of influence. The old socioeconomic and sociopolitical structures created by legacy media and the old education system have created an unsustainable economic structure, created a lot of social strife, it's created a lot of political strife, and people are getting fed up. Right, the wealth inequality is rising, the diseases of despair are rising. Right, diabetes, obesity, suicide, depression, anxiety, health in general, heart disease. All of these problems are getting worse, and the reason for it is because we are being influenced in a certain way that is leading us astray. And the people who are predominantly responsible for that influence in the past were legacy media and the education system. So, if we never question it, then we're just going to stay in that same vicious cycle, and all of these problems are going to keep getting worse. Influencers are questioning, influencers are challenging that legacy media. That is the reason people are choosing to opt out of a safe career path to instead become influencers. They're trying to change the ways that society structures itself. They're trying to change those socioeconomic and sociopolitical structures, the very nature of them. They're challenging them again. They're trying to provide different angles by which to think about our problems, to come up with solutions that actually work rather than treating symptoms, right? Our entire economy is hell-bent on treating symptoms. That's all it does. We have a medical industry that comes up with weight loss drugs like Ozempic, and the pharmaceutical industry makes billions of dollars. Meanwhile, there are no obese animals in the entire animal kingdom except humans, and those animals that we feed, like our dogs, right? We're the only obese species on the planet. Why is that? Is it because we didn't have Ozempic? Do all of the other animals have Ozempic? Or is there something in our socioeconomic and sociopolitical structures that is creating that obesity? I think the answer is the latter, right? I think we've been led astray, and the influencers are it's a way of self-correcting the species as a whole. It's a way of correcting the paths we're on. And it's not to say that every influencer is hitting the nail on the head. It's not to say that the rap culture that encourages, I don't know, that encourages misogyny is good. There's a lot of influencers out there who aren't exactly hitting the nail on the head, but there are better influencers, okay? The best influencers in this new influencer movement are a hell of a lot better than the old legacy media, than the old education system that encourages people to prioritize financial well-being, their individual financial well-being above the well-being of the people down the street, right? It's ultimately what I think is happening is that the influencer phenomenon is creating a collectivistic movement that is leaving behind the individualism, the radical individualism that has been rampant throughout the United States because of legacy media, because of, not necessarily because of capitalism, but because of the people who espouse capitalism, because of the people who are trying to, who control the economy effectively, the ruling class. I could get into divide and conquer strategies here, but that's not the point. The point here is that look at this influencer phenomenon. Look at some of the influencers, and I guarantee you're going to find some of the best role models that you've ever seen today. And they're probably going to be people, generally younger people, who are sick of the status quo. They're sick of the increasingly unstable social structures that we have created, and they're challenging them. That's what the influencer phenomenon is. It is a movement that is correcting the unsustainable social structures that were created by legacy media and the education system. So give that a little thought. Thanks for watching.